Welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I am really excited to have in studio with me Richard Eidlin. He is an advisor to EarthX. He lives in Denver and has a long-term background in sustainability. I also have with me here Jerry Tinianow. He is the director of the City of Denver Sustainability Office. And the reason that you guys are joining me today is to talk about EarthX, the expo that takes place every year in Dallas in April. So I would love to do an update on where we are with EarthX. Richard, if you don't mind starting.
Sure, yeah. And let me tell you a little bit about EarthX. It's in its 9th year now. And over the course of those years, it's become the world's largest environmental expo, conference series, and film festival. And I like to describe it as a real mashup of both business to business and business to consumer. And it brings in about 1,000 exhibitors from across the country and actually across the world to focus on environmental technologies, environmental solutions, and a series of conversations about what companies and NGOs or not-for-profits, city and state agencies, federal agencies, academic institutions can do to address environmental issues. So, as you said, it takes place the last weekend of April in Dallas, Texas. Excuse me, in Fair Park, which is a very large park in downtown Dallas where the Cotton Bowl is, among other facilities there. And we're putting together a Colorado pavilion this year to highlight some of Colorado's more interesting and successful environmental services that are provided by companies or programs that are provided by city or state agencies, as well as some of the academic institutions that have environmental programs here in Colorado.
Awesome. Well, I imagine over 9 years you guys have grown and seen what works, seen what doesn't work along the way. And you mentioned this Colorado Pavilion. Not to say that in years past, Colorado exhibitors haven't been there. We're pretty close to Texas, right? We have a pretty good relationship with Texas. So you've been in the past, right, Jerry?
Correct, yes. Yeah, we went last year for the first time representing the city and county of Denver. We wanted to check it out. We knew that EarthX wanted to have a Colorado pavilion, but it seemed counterintuitive. Why would we in Denver go to some other state to celebrate Earth Day when we had plenty to celebrate right here? So I agreed to go and set up a booth, not in any pavilion, just a booth last year and have the experience. And I have to tell you, I came away from that experience absolutely convinced that Colorado needs to have a pavilion, that there are many advantages to companies here. And this year, in particular, Earth Day itself is on a different day than the 3-day celebration when we'll have the pavilion. So for Colorado entities, you can still do your Earth Day here in Colorado and then go to EarthX and do 3 more days there.
Awesome. So take a long weekend and have a nice time there. I was checking out the EarthX website, and that's earthx.org, if you are so inclined. But you guys, you mentioned a film festival, you mentioned a conference, and so you've got some different dates there, too, which is really nice. So that film festival actually starts on the 19th of April and runs through the end of the expo on the 28th.
Right. And that features dozens of films from filmmakers, you know, some short, some documentaries, some longer films that really cover the waterfront of issues. In particular, this year, talking about water, that is one of the main themes. And so there's an oceans conference that's occurring this year. And there's an organization based here in Colorado called the Ocean Inland Coalition, which is going to be exhibiting and talking about water quality issues. There's also, just to tell you, you a little bit more about the conferences, there's a conference on what cities can do to become more resilient. I think Jerry's going to participate in that. There's an energy conference. There's a transportation conference. There's another conference on environmental law. And there's also a gathering of young environmental leaders. So it's called 30 Under 30. And those are young millennials who are active either in the private sector or in a not-for-profit or government working on environmental issues. So all that happens, Alex said once, those conferences are happening, the film festival, the exhibits, and it's helpful to have a map so that you can get your way around the large facility.
Yes. Well, and it's exciting stuff. The whole point of the expo itself is to connect people to take action and create solutions for a sustainable future. I think a lot of people are on board for a sustainable future, right? Especially people that have kids. They are the future. Let's go ahead and make sure that we can keep this earth going for them, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to go local here and talk some of Denver's efforts on creating a more sustainable place. So again, you are the director of the City of Denver Sustainability Office. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the mayor, Mayor Hancock, gave me a forward agenda when I came in 2012. Scale and everybody plays. So he wants us to focus on projects that operate at large scale, that move big numbers for Denver, that aren't little boutique type demonstration projects, but that really move the needle. And then everybody plays means he wants sustainability to be the core business value of every department in the city government, regardless of what it is that they do, what service they perform. Both agencies that people normally associate with this, like Public Works, but also the agencies that people don't associate with sustainability, let's say the police or the fire department. He wants it to be part of the basic business culture of the city and county of Denver as a governmental entity. And that's what we've been working on for 7 years, and we've been making great progress. Last year was a particularly good year for us. You know, we have a building energy efficiency program that reduced energy usage in large commercial buildings by 4.5% in a single year, which is an amazing, that's scale, amazing number. We came up with a new green building policy to go beyond that. We've increased the diversion rate, the amount of waste kept out of the landfill. We've increased our diversion rate by over 50% in 6 years. So we're doing really well, but the reason we're interested in things like EarthX is because the mayor knows that no matter how well we do on our own, we've got to work with other cities. We can't solve the world's problems on our own in Denver. We have to set a good example, but we also have to be working with other cities, other businesses, and so forth. And EarthX is really the place to do that.
Wow. I love hearing that. And from somebody that your only gain is to make more sustainability for everybody.
Correct. Right. And we need to do it worldwide because the problems that we're facing right now, like climate change, or energy shortages or whatever, these are worldwide problems. And setting a good example is important. But if we're not working with other cities, other groups, other businesses, academics, we're not going to solve these problems.
I love hearing that. Richard, let's talk back with you. 9 years that we've seen this, and while the expo itself has grown and you've got more entities, you've got more people coming, you have Colorado Pavilion, you have a Mexico Pavilion this year that's coming in. Exciting stuff really that's going on. But besides growing that, what changes are you seeing? What's coming out of this?
Yeah, well, one of the most interesting aspects of EarthX is that it takes place in Dallas, Texas. So the founder of EarthX, excuse me, is Trammell S. Crow, and Trammell sort of had this epiphany, and as a green Republican, as he refers to himself, he recognized that green is the new black, and became a real advocate for the private sector to work more collaboratively with the public sector in developing the kind of programs Jerry's talking about, and fostering a conversation, between the right and the left on a lot of critical issues. And in this day, when things have become fairly partisan, EarthX is a convening spot for people of all political persuasions and viewpoints to come together. So that's one of the great advantages of EarthX, and that's something that has been developing year to year. And the programs that we put together at EarthX and the range of exhibitors really represent a cross-section of people who are into land conservation, people who are into animal conservation, hunters, fishermen, also oil companies, natural gas companies, solar and wind. So it's a real mix of views on how to become a better environmental steward.
I imagine that there are a lot of conversations that happen where people may tend to go in one-sided, but afterwards probably see the other viewpoint. Were there any conferences that you maybe attended last year that kind of helped you expand your horizon and make sure that you were gung-ho about getting in on the Colorado Pavilion?
Pretty much every topic that you might want to discuss is presented. And they have multiple stages going constantly. I know I spoke on one stage about smart city technology, resilience. Everything is going on at once, but there's also casual meetups. I remember at one point I was just wandering around the area where our booth was, and a friend from another Colorado company beckoned me over and said, "Hey, would you like to meet General Wesley Clark? He's here in our booth right now." And so so I sat down with General Clark and started talking to him. He'd been a presidential candidate and so forth.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of interactions that you have at EarthX. You know, we're Denver, so we are an increasingly cosmopolitan place. A city with international aspirations that we're already reaching. And so these are the kinds of events that we want to be at. So we have those interactions so we can talk to people from around the country, around the world, kind of show off a little bit about what we do, but also build some connections with them.
Oh, wonderful. Well, and I have been in Denver for about 8 years now. Not a native. Weird, I know. But one of the things that I first noticed when I moved here was how environmentally conscious we are, right? There's this whole aspect of we love the outdoors here, but if you're going to pack it in, you pack it out, right? We're pretty good about doing that. Spreading that word, I think, is key to getting that across to other cities. So what is your plan for the Colorado Pavilion this year? You're going to set up an exhibition. Right. What can we see from you guys?
Well, we'll be only one of probably a few dozen exhibitors in the Colorado Pavilion. It was funny last year when I just had a little standalone booth, people would stop by the booth and say, "Why are you here? You know, why is the city of Denver here? Are you trying to get people to move to Denver?" And I said, "We don't have to try in Denver." And a lot of people said, "You know, boy, I wish I could live in Denver because, you know, the weather is cooler there and everything." So part of it is recruiting businesses, you know, from Texas, people from Texas, students from Texas and so forth to come to Colorado. This year, I think now that we're going to be part of the pavilion, we're going to try to integrate into what we're doing, not just our sustainability message, but all the advantages that Colorado has to offer to Texas. We're a big destination for people from Texas. We love having students from Texas sign up for our universities. We obviously want to draw on their technical expertise. We'd love to have their businesses relocate there. So at least at our table this year, we're going to present a more full-fledged view of Denver that goes beyond sustainability. And, you know, from the point of view of any other company that's thinking of being an exhibitor, you're going to be there with a lot of other Colorado companies for 3 days right in that exhibition hall. The interactions just among the Colorado businesses and entities are going to be worth it no matter where they would occur. But they're occurring at EarthX. And so the opportunities to do other things with your time are really something that's not found anywhere else in the United States.
That is awesome. And it is the largest Earth Day Expo in the world, right?
It is. It attracts about 140, 150,000 people, many of them from Texas, but also, as Jerry suggested, people now travel to EarthX as a destination to be part of a conference or to promote their product or service. And Alex, as far as the other types of organizations and companies that will be part of the pavilion, we have the State Energy Office, we have the National Renewable Energy Lab, Eidlin Theological School, who is launching a new eco-justice program and wanted to look for students as well as engage in conversations about their activities, Regis College, their business school, and still in conversation with lots of companies that are welcome to be part of this exhibit area.
So you are still actively seeking companies to join?
Right,
Okay.
particularly outdoor recreation companies, companies in the food industry, hemp companies, transportation, because there is a transportation conference, solar and wind companies are most welcome. And again, we wanted to profile some of the more innovative and interesting products and services because, as Jerry noted, Colorado really does have a reputation nationwide, well-deserved, as being a leader in innovating new technologies, new ideas. And we sort of have, I think, a well-deserved reputation of solving problems also in a fairly nonpartisan way, and that's attractive to people around the country.
Yes, absolutely. While I understand why we have the City of Denver there from the Sustainability Office, you are in the realm of sustainability, right? And in the realm of making sure we take care of this earth. If I am perhaps in a profit organization, a business of sorts, is there more than just meeting people and perhaps recruiting some Texans to come work for my company? Is there another incentive maybe to join, to be a part of this exhibition?
Yeah, so there is this B2C part, so lots of consumers walking through the exhibits. So if you're in the retail aspect of business, there's opportunities to sell your product or service. And then there is a lot of B2B work that goes on in banquets and receptions, in smaller conferences that take place. So if you're a company, there's a lot of opportunity to identify prospective funders. For instance, for early stage companies, there's something called the eCapital Summit. So if you're a technology company looking to scale your operations or look for investors, there's an opportunity to actually pitch your product or service. So we're working with a whole series of accelerators and incubators and tech startups, and they're in Boulder and in Fort Collins and in Denver, there are lots of early stage technology companies, particularly in the renewable space, that could take advantage of that opportunity. So whether you're a very established company or a startup, EarthX has an opportunity for you to meet with policymakers. We've invited Senator Gardner and Senator Bennett. We're waiting to hear from both of them. Hopefully they can attend. And then if you're, an early stage company, there's an opportunity to ideally attract capital for your effort.
Absolutely. Besides being gung-ho about coming back for the Colorado Pavilion this year and maybe getting your name out there, what was one thing that you definitely took in that you might make you want to continue to show up every year?
Richard alluded to it earlier, but the diversity of the audience and the diversity of the exhibitors is absolutely remarkable. First, on the exhibitors, there are so many of them. When you really walk among those exhibits, you see just how broad the field of sustainability has become, how many different business areas are involved in it, how many companies are more and more buying into it, trying to be a part of it, and so forth. And then the audience itself, in this very conservative state, very conservative city in a conservative state, and yet you see all ages, all races, many nationalities, I think all income levels. What really lifts me up is to see how this concept of sustainability has this appeal to everyone, across the scale. So both of those are things I took away. And then just the other opportunity to compare notes. I mean, my booth last year was, I think, 2 down from the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. So they had a big display. And, of course, I wanted to compare them to Denver International Airport. Dallas-Fort Worth considers itself to be the greenest airport in the United States. I think the Denver International Airport is the greenest. But we were comparing notes in terms of how they rated themselves and what they were doing, and I know what our airport is doing. And that allows me to come home and talk to our airport about what one of their major competitors is doing in this area and get some ideas from them. So there really is no other event in the United States where you can do all of this stuff at the same time. We all heard the phrase 3-ring circus. EarthX is more like a 10-ring circus. and the biggest challenge you have is deciding how to spend your day, because there's so many opportunities for you. You really have to be wise with how you spend your time.
Oh, man, so you're saying I should probably go map everything out on the website first and make sure that I'm knocking off what I want to see.
Right.
But leave yourself an hour or two to just wander around wherever the spirit moves you. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You mentioned all ages.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you guys, so obviously there's a business component, there's film festivals, there's conferences, things that you can attend. I know that we're big on the university scene as well. Whether, you're a college student trying to get hired or you're a college student looking for or going to be a college student. What about little ones? Do we have any setup for little ones?
There are a whole series of programs where kids come in on public school buses, particularly on Friday, April 26th. And so there are, dozens and dozens of schools in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that participate. And one of the great things about EarthX is it's designed to be educationally oriented. So there's a lot of hands-on exhibits. There are opportunities to make laundry, non-toxic laundry detergent, to learn about how a solar electric cell works, to learn about water quality, to learn about animal husbandry. So the kids, particularly elementary and middle school and high school, come and participate in all these programs. And parents find EarthX to be a very conducive environment to spend time with the whole family. And that for college students, I should mention that there is a hackathon, which is really interesting. And the hackathon involves upwards to several hundred students from dozens of colleges across the country who come as teams and then are given problems to solve by host or by sponsors. And those are environmental problems about water quality or mining or waste disposal. And then the students work over a 36-hour period to come up with a solution. And so that hackathon is a way for college students to participate in particular.
That's awesome. That sounds amazing. Those hands-on exhibits, can I maybe partake in one of those hands-on exhibits?
Absolutely. Come on down. And,
all right.
And there's also goat yoga. I
saw that.
So that's pretty exciting too.
Yes.
A lot of near my booths, there were a lot of wild birds. I used to be vice president of the National Audubon Society, so I loved having these Harris's hawks and stuff, right next door to my booth. And so, yeah, it's a great place for kids. That's why, they do it on the weekend and people bring their families.
That's awesome. That is great to hear. You have practically gushed about the Earth Expo, and obviously we have a reason to be there. But I got to ask you, was there a favorite part that stuck out for you? You mentioned the birds, you mentioned the conversations you had, the people that you met, but was there one thing in particular that you will always cherish?
The event is like the Grand Canyon. It's like the Grand Canyon of events. If you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, you know that no matter how many books you've read about it or films you've seen or TV shows and so forth, there's no substitute for being there. The sheer magnitude of it, based as it is on the Texas State Fairgrounds, the largest state fair in the United States, just the, building after building of exhibits and groups and lectures and so forth, really the number one impression is the magnitude of this thing. It's like the Grand Canyon of events.
I love hearing that. Thank you. Where can I find more information and last thoughts from you?
Yeah. The website is chock full of information, so www.earthx.org, and people can register for conferences. To get into the fairgrounds, I should mention, is free. And we have, for anyone coming from Colorado, there's a great hotel deal at the Hilton Anatole that they can avail themselves of. I can be reached. My email is richard@Eidlin, EIDLIN.com. And Alex, last thoughts is, the same question you asked Jerry about what was most impressive. I mean, two things stood out from last year. One was the auto pavilion. So there are literally 100 new automobiles, electric, battery, hydrogen, all new technologies that were housed in one building. And that was really fascinating to just see the future right there in front of you. And the other was an opportunity I had to interview Governor Hickenlooper, who we had speak at a conference, and he spoke about collaboration and the importance of bringing the public and private and civil society together. So, again, I encourage Colorado companies and organizations to think about coming. It's not too late to sign up for a booth, and if a booth is not possible, you can still come as a visitor, and we're trying to create a real presence for the great state of Colorado at EarthX in April.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. It's been a pleasure having you in studio to talk about EarthX. So please like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. Visit earthx.org, sign up for the conferences. If you want to get a booth out there, that's the place to do that. Again, that is April 26th through the 28th. You can find this podcast and more at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Alex.